In this video, I'm going to be seeing how many Space Marine proxies I can print off with just one bottle of resin on my 3D printer. So let's get on with it. So I've been really tempted to start building a Space Marine army recently, and the downside of this video is it made me end up going out and buy a whole bunch of actual Space Marines, but I also printed off a load of these proxies as well just to play with and see what they were like. Some of these are by Gammak and some of these are by Station Forge as well, and they do a whole range of different 3D printed proxies that you can print off to stick in your Space Marine army or use in any other sci-fi games as well. Now the first thing I went off and printed off were these Assault Intercessors, so I got 10 of these and I really like them. They're very reminiscent of the standard Space Marine that you'd get from something like Games Workshop, but they also do their own thing as well. So one thing I quite like about Gammak is it's quite close to that original design, but also does stuff that's very, very different. So they're a little bit more blocky, a bit more bulky, and their armor is a bit more reminiscent of like ancient medieval knights instead. They're in some really good poses, and you can download these in either monopose, or you can obviously download them in all the different parts as well, so you can pose them how you like, which is a nice big bonus. So I got 10 of those printed off first, and then I decided to move on to something a little bit different. And I went with these by Station Forge. I'm not too sure what sort of proxies I could use them for, but I really like the way these look. They look like medieval knights in old, big, bulky, thick armor. They've got all these candles on them, these books on them, these cool bladed weapons. Some of them have these bolters as well. They are really fantastic prints. I had a lot of fun with these, so I've got 10 of those printed off as well, and they could be used for, I guess, if you're going for something like word bearers, or you just want something that's a little bit random and different to go in your army. I really like them. Next, I decided I needed some more heavy infantry or just some different unit types as well. So I printed off these 3 Eradicators by Gammak, and basically again, same sort of thing as the Assault Intercessors, big, heavy, bulky armor, massive, big, like melter weapons and everything else. The thing I like about their power armor is it's all supported by this like mech stuff on the outside as well, so it looks as though it really would help them to support with these massive weapons. And then I printed off these 3 Eliminators, and I like these, although I think they maybe look a little bit too bulky to be kind of going around and doing stealthy stuff. But again, they're nice sculpts. You could maybe scale them down a little bit actually and get away with something that's a little bit smaller, but very nice. They've got these capes over the top of them, these like, I don't know, Tom Clancy type goggles as well. Nice little prints. Moving across, I printed off these 3 Blade Guard Veterans as well, and these look probably the closest to your standard Space Marines out of the lot of them. They're very, very nice detailed sculpts, a lot of stuff going on there. Again, different enough from the Games Workshop stuff to stand out on their own, but close enough that they could match with an army that you've already got printed off. Then I went with this Apothecary, you know, dealing with his dead friend here. I don't know what he's trying to do there. The guy's got no legs. He's got no bottom half, in fact, on this base here, which, yeah, poor guy. But again, nice pose. It's very, very, very reminiscent of the Games Workshop one that you can buy on their website. So, yeah, if you want something that's quite close, then this is definitely it, but maybe a little bit too close for my liking. This is one of the only bases I printed off as well, so you'll see in some of the B-roll, they've all got bases. I only printed this one off and the bases for the bikes as part of this set. The rest of them I printed off separately just so I didn't waste too much resin with that, but it's something to bear in mind. And then I printed off these 3 bikes as well. So these are like the hover bikes, really cool, really like the look of these. They come with these little stands as well, so they are just about hovering, so that way, you know, you've got that included, you don't have to go off and find something different. Nice poses, they're quite cool. But you can also print them off in a bike wheeled version, which again, if you want more something that's a bit more traditional to match with other things in your army, you've got that too. I did have one that failed, unfortunately. Parts broke off of it once I printed it, and that's because of the resin I was using. And the big learn that I had from this is don't use 8K resin for things like this with lots of weapons kind of hanging off them. Even though all the armor and everything's big, it's bulky, it's thick, the brittleness of the resin just made it an absolute nightmare working with. So loads of these have already lost like little weapons and stuff like that have kind of come off. I tend to go with something like an ABS light resin whenever I'm doing miniatures. For this video, I already had a set of 8K resin that was like left over and unopened, and I figured I may as well go through it, and I regret it now because I probably wouldn't be able to use these, which is a bit of a shame. And the last thing I printed was this chaplain on a hover bike as well, and he's really cool. Again, a lot of detail on there, will definitely fit with like your standard Space Marine army too. So all in all, there are 34 Space Marines on this table, including 4 bikes, although one of them did break, unfortunately. So you get a whole bunch of Space Marines from just 1 bottle of resin. So it works out around about £1 per miniature, just a little bit less. But there's also loads of other things to bear in mind as well. So before people come at me in the comments and say, yeah, but you've got to buy your printer and all the cleaning stuff. Yeah, you do. So this is just if you already have that 3D printer, and you want to try and work out some maths as how much this sort of thing would cost you to get printed off, it's actually not too bad. Once you've got all the initial hardware, it's pretty cheap to get all the stuff going. Like I mentioned, the bases, you might want to use your own bases as well, and that's why I didn't include the bases as part of this. To be fair, if I did print off all the bases as well, I'd probably only have to sacrifice a couple of Marines in this, so it's actually not too bad. So this video was just a little bit of fun to see how many of these I could print off, test out a few of these as well, and see which one of them I want to print off to actually go into my army as well. Because now I've been doing this, I'm well and truly now hooked, and I've ended up going on eBay and buying a whole bunch of Space Marines. I've got a really fun video coming up where I'm converting them all into retro Marines, so printing off like all the old school helmets, some of the old school like banners and everything else to go with them, and converting some of those Primaris Marines. So make sure you stay tuned to see how that one turns out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.